Kamala Harris made the rounds, did some interviews yesterday. She's been doing a bunch of interviews. She did 60 Minutes. She did The View yesterday. I went on Don Lemon's show last week praying that I don't pray very much, praying that the Kamala Harris campaign would give her the okay to do the Howard Stern show, because I think he's the best in the business and has been for decades at interviewing people and making them feel comfortable. I thought her best interview was on the Howard Stern show. You might call me a little bit biased, but I thought this interview was hands down the best. She did okay on The View. Thought she did fine on 60 Minutes. I thought Colbert, she was very laid back, very relaxed. I thought she did fine. But I thought the Howard Stern interview, she clearly was most comfortable, and she gave real good, thoughtful answers. So this is the point in the interview on the Howard Stern show where Harris was telling Howard Stern that Trump doesn't care about Americans' needs. Have a listen to this.
I think that, Howard, people ask me, what do you think is going on, and what is the tension here? What's at stake? And there are many things, and I can be much more articulate than what I'm going to say. But ultimately, I do believe that this is an election that is about strength versus weakness.
Yeah.
And weakness as projected by someone who puts himself in front of the American people and does not have the strength to stand in defense of their needs, their dreams, their desires, the work that must happen to make sure that we are a secure nation, that we are nurturing and protecting our alliances around the world, that we are supporting America's military, that we are fighting to bring the cost of living down for working families, that we are building businesses, building growth.
Did you
completely agree? Think about what we've learned in just the last 24 hours. This is a man during the heart of the pandemic when we had a shortage when it came to COVID tests. Yeah, as it progressed, we were fine. But when we had a shortage, he was sending COVID tests to Vladimir Putin and telling him, don't tell anybody about this, doing it in secret. He was holding COVID press conferences turning into campaign rallies, telling people to inject themselves with disinfectant. This is what Donald Trump did. 15 cases down to 0. It's going to be gone by Easter. And this is the point, and this is part of the reason why I love Howard. Kamala Harris did that 60 Minutes interview. Say what you want about it. She was pressed. She answered questions. It was unscripted. Donald Trump is a chicken. He's a draft-dodging coward. He won't go on 60 Minutes because he doesn't want to get fact-checked. He doesn't want to be pressed. He'll do his Newsmax and OAN garbage. But the reason why he won't do a 60 Minutes interview is because you have good journalists that are asking real questions. Donald Trump is a chicken, just like he doesn't want to debate her again. He doesn't want a piece of her, and he doesn't want a piece of 60 Minutes. Have a listen to this exchange.
You're coming here. You went on The View this morning.
Yeah.
You're going to the shows. You did 60 Minutes. By the way, I thought what was so amazing about 60 Minutes is the fact that Trump turned it down.
Yeah.
I mean, it just says so much. He didn't want to be fact-checked. This is maddening. This is insanity. What do you mean you don't want to be fact-checked?
I think that, Howard, people ask me, what do you think is going on, and what is the tension here? What's at stake? And there are many things, and I can be much more articulate than what I'm going to say. But ultimately, I do believe that this is an election that is about strength versus weakness.
Yeah.
And weakness as projected by someone who puts himself in front of the American people and does not have the strength to stand in defense of their needs, their dreams, their desires, the work that must happen to make sure that we are a secure nation, that we are nurturing and protecting our alliances around the world, that we are supporting America's military, that we are fighting to bring the cost of living down for working families, that we are building businesses, building growth.
Did you?
Yes, of course. You can rely on your record in the Biden administration. There's no question about that. Trump cannot. You look at the economy that he left Joe Biden, it was in shambles. Donald Trump is dodging 60 Minutes. and dodging another debate with Kamala Harris, just like he dodged the military, because Donald Trump has lived his entire life as a coward and a wannabe dictator. And this is the point in the interview, and I think it's really important, where she's asked about that. Why does Donald Trump kiss up to these dictators? Why is he sending COVID tests to Vladimir Putin? Have a listen to this.
Did you ever think in your lifetime you would see a Republican not supporting NATO and wanting to disassemble NATO? I mean, what world are we living in?
And
This is so weird.
NATO, which is the greatest military alliance the world has ever known.
It's what my
You wanna
father's
talk about
general.
strength.
Yeah.
That is strength to embrace that alliance as America, as Americans, and he would walk away because he admires dictators
Well, what did you
more
think?
than he does.
What did you
our
think of this thing that
allies.
just came out today? That Bob Woodward's book was saying that Trump was sending COVID tests to Putin, and Putin said, "Don't let anyone know." I mean, this is what is going on. What do you make of that?
So I actually said it even in the debate. I believe that Donald Trump has this desire to be a dictator. He admires strong men and he gets played by them because he thinks that they're his friends
Yeah,
and they are manipulating him full time and manipulating him by flattery
yeah.
and with favor. And so in the midst, to your point, as
So it's very simple here. First of all, she's 150% correct. 150%. And she did allude to this on the debate stage. Simply put, Donald Trump admires evil, murderous dictators like Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump's dream, or his wet dream, or whatever you would like to call it, is that he wants to enter every room, any public setting, and he wants everyone to bow to him and kiss his feet because he's a wannabe evil, murderous dictator, and he admires that Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin and other murderous dictators around the world, some, have that, and he doesn't. And I believe he'd be willing to do anything and everything in order to get that kind of treatment. Now, I want to go to the next cut, if I may, because this is an important part of the interview. And this is the reason and the case that I make to so many Americans when I'm on the air every day, what a threat Donald Trump is to this country and, quite frankly, the world. And this is the part of the discussion where they talk about this.
to your point, doesn't support our friend Ukraine, doesn't support, therefore, something America should always and has always, by the way, been a champion of, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity, which means the importance of standing against anyone who tries to take another nation by force.
Right.
That's what we stand for as Americans, that you don't do that. And if you do that to our friends, we're going to stand with our friends. It's you're getting played. And some would say, look, I grew up in the neighborhood. Some would say you're getting punked.
Yeah.
If you stand in favor of somebody who's an adversary over your friends on principles that we all agree on. And you look at it, it's not only that. He says he's going to be a dictator on day one. Understand what dictators do. They jail journalists. They put people who are protesting in the street in jail.
He said he thinks he wants to go after Jimmy Kimmel, a comedian. He wants to go after Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers. What, even if someone had said years ago when I remember presidential, races, if someone said, "Oh, Kamala Harris isn't a black woman," they would have been out of the. They would have been out of the.
Yeah.
That would have been it. Would have been over. I mean, how do you challenge that?
Well,
What do you do with that?
Now, what Kamala Harris tried to do, and I thought she did it very well, is she wanted to limit, personal attacks. And she talked about policy. She talked about the threat and the dangers of Donald Trump. I thought it was a phenomenal job. Make no mistake about it, Howard Stern is still the best in the world at interviewing people. He has that skill and that ability that nobody else has, in my opinion. It's a level above everybody else. He makes everybody feel comfortable. That was a phenomenal interview. He did the same thing with Hillary Clinton. Phenomenal. And I'll be honest, the times that he interviewed Donald Trump, he was able to get out of Donald Trump who he is as a human being. If you go back to those interviews that he did with Donald Trump, doesn't matter whether he was a politician or not, Donald Trump compared sexually transmitted diseases to, quote, his Vietnam. He talked about his daughter's body. He made disparaging comments about women. If a woman is flat-chested, she can't be a 10, among other things. But that's what Howard Stern is able to do. He's able to get from you who you truly are as a human being. You have Kamala Harris, very intelligent, very articulate, very well-spoken, speaking truth to lies. You have Donald Trump, politician or not, coming in there only talking about naked women and sexcapades and comparing someone who is a brave man or woman in uniform to sexually transmitted diseases that he has to fight against when he's with women. This is who Donald Trump is. When somebody tells you who they are, believe them. Believe them. That's who Donald Trump is, the 34-count felon sexual abuser. That's who Donald Trump is, the swindling, lying car salesman who sells you crap and lies and Trump University. The man who's never been faithful to one woman his entire life. All he cares about is himself. And the people that believe what he says are some of the dumbest people America has to offer. I repeat it over and over again. If you believe that Donald Trump did this for all of you, then go ahead and drive to Mar-a-Lago and look at the people that are there at Mar-a-Lago. The billionaires, middle-aged white people, older white people that stand up and clap for him when he walks into a room like he's some sort of king. Well, he's not. He's King Orange Turd is what he is. He's a despicable human being who's lived a despicable, terrible life, a draft dodger, a liable rapist, and a 34-count felon criminal, and more coming, ladies and gentlemen. That's who Donald Trump is, and I am proud to support Kamala Harris. I am proud that she went on the Howard Stern show. I've been told by several pretty powerful people, including two people that work on the Howard Stern show, that a big reason why she did that interview is because of me pressing her over and over again. And I'm not saying pressing the campaign. I'm not saying I deserve credit or a pat on the back or it's an ego thing. But if that is true, then I am very grateful and happy that she did do that, because I truly think that that interview is going to help her campaign. She's reaching out to middle-aged men, a group of people that she has been struggling with, and I believe that interview definitely helped her. Kudos to her. Kudos to the campaign. Job well done. Keep doing those interviews. You're doing a great job. I know you're still the vice president. We got less than a month to go. Please keep doing those interviews.